Hi guys, so today we're going to be taking a look at SiegeStorm by Awaken Realms, and I'm going to be telling you how you can win this copy for yourself. We're going to be looking at how to play, kind of my overall feelings of it, and at the end I'm going to kind of give you the full review. SiegeStorm is a two-player collectible card game brought to you by Awaken Realms. These are the same people who brought you Lords of Hellas and Nemesis, so a great history behind this company. And there's just a lot of really cool art in this game. It's kind of resembling a little bit of that kind of Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone, a lot of that dueling deck format. But if you don't like collectible games, there is also another option that you can just basically play with everything that comes in the starter. There's a whole lot of stuff that comes in here, so we're going to take a look at this game. Now we do have a rule book. The rule book is actually pretty small. We don't have a whole lot to really read. It's basically a front and back here, and then a front and back on the other side. It's about as simple as that. It's going to outline kind of how to play. There's also a card in here that basically they have an online service for this game where you can kind of pair you up with people. So in addition to like maybe a Facebook groups or meetups or however you tend to meet up with people to play this game, they're also going to be offering some type of online tracking, which is pretty interesting. So we're going to take a look at the cards that come inside. So we have two different factions in this game. We have Seraphia and Styxia, basically representing the light and the dark. They each have different card backs. So Seraphia has more or less a white card back, and Styxia has more or less a black card back. There are some mechanics in this game that are actually going to shuffle cards from your opponent and put them kind of in your cards. So if you're going to sleeve this game, you'll want to use definitely individual special sleeves. These are about standard card size. But I wouldn't recommend doing mirror matches though, because in that case you would potentially have cards mixed up. So it's always good to play against another faction. There are only two factions in the core set. They do say that there are other factions planned. Now, when we look at a card, we're getting great artwork all along. There's a cost up here, the name of the card, the artwork for it. There's an action space, a passive space, an attack value, a defense value, and as well as a symbol here. And this symbol tells you a couple of things. It tells you the rarity of the card, such as uncommon, common, rare, etc. And that's indicated by basically the border, and then this little white symbol here in the middle. Now, in the core game, there are going to be some that have a green symbol, and those are the ones that they recommend you use for your starting decks. The deck is going to consist of 34 cards, and we're going to show you kind of where those cards go when I show you how to play the game. But the important thing to note is that there is no card types. In this game, every single card is a creature. If you look, they're all exactly the same. So this game is actually very, very simple. Every card can be played multiple ways, so you can play a card as an action or as a creature. And if you play it as an action, you're just going to do what it says under action. In this case, it's draw two cards. In the case of the passive, this is going to apply to after you've played it as a creature and it's on the game board. And then you're going to look at all the other things. Now, and there is definitely a different theme between the two. Angels versus like zombies and undead, and all things of the dark, banshees, succubuses, lesser demons. So it's very much light versus dark in this core set. One of the things that you're going to notice is I mentioned that some of these symbols would be green. The cards I'm currently looking at are all white symbols. So you're getting actually an awful lot of stuff in this box, because you're getting two full decks plus a whole another set of cards that you can customize your decks with. Very cool. Let's look at actually how the game plays. So the way the game is basically played is you divide your deck of 34 cards into 3 even piles. Well, first thing you're going to do is you're going to draw 4, and then you're going to have 3 even piles of 10. And this is basically done so that your opponent can keep track, and you can keep track of how many cards you have left, because this is where you draw from. This is your library. This is also your life total. So once these run out, you're going to lose. The same thing for your opponent, although they're sitting across from you. So in this case, we're going to be playing the light, and the dark is opposite their top. They've also drawn 4. Now, this area is called the front line. You have no man's land here, and here's your opponent's front line. And these are places where you can actually end up putting creatures, if they make it all the way through, that their passive buffs can stack and continue to keep going. So as we look, we've drawn 4 cards, and we're going to see, I'm going to take a look at my Scout here first. My Scout is a pretty staple card here. It costs 0. Up here on the top, there's a little ruby symbol. That's how much it costs to play them. So we either have to have resources out that we can turn sideways, commonly known as tapping, And that would be like a card that I had down here in my resources pile that I could exhaust or tap. And that's kind of what that works. That would, if it costed 1, for example. But if I don't have cards and I have a cost to play, so let's say I wanted to play the Stag Rider, it costs 1. I would have to pay 1. If I don't have any resources or any, think lands from Magic the Gathering or something like that, or mana. If I don't have any resources, then I have to discard a card equal to the resources. So I would have to discard maybe my assassin, put it over here in my discard pile, and then I could play him. And he's going to go right here. But let's say I don't want to do that first. Let's say I just want to play my scout. So the beginning of my turn, the very first thing I'm going to do is draw 2 cards. And I'll draw 2 more cards, and I've drawn a healing golem. Love that art. And then I've drawn an archangel. Now that's a beautiful card. It costs 7 too, so it's very expensive. So in theory, I could potentially discard up to 5 cards. I don't have any, so I can't play the Angel of Fury here, which costs 6. But I can play the Scout. Now I'm going to play the Scout for free. And the Scout's going to deploy right here. Now I can only play 1 character per turn because my deployment zone has to be open. And whoever's here in my deployment zone is also going to count as a defender if the opponent had a creature right here that was about to attack me. And this kind of works like an assembly line, almost like in a tower defense game from a certain point of view. Because as I put my creature down here, at the start of my next turn, after I've drawn, everything's going to move up. And then everything's going to move up again. And then once she gets to the end, she's going to have the opportunity to attack or do a couple of other things. And I'm going to talk about those here in a minute. So let's look at this card. So at the top, we already talked about the cost. Action is something that characters can do. You can basically discard a card instead of actually playing a character, and you can discard a card while paying its cost to do the action. So for example, if I just wanted to play her to draw 2, she costs 0, so I could just send her straight to my discard pile and draw 2 more cards. And if I didn't like the cards I started out with, maybe I would do that. Or if I wanted to play this Angel of Fury for 6, I could draw 2 more cards. Whoops. And now discard everything and start off with an Angel of Fury. Of course, now I've just gone through an awful lot of cards, so I'm lower on life now. Also, I'm lower on card selection. So there's definitely a give and take. If you want to go very aggressive, you're going to run out of stuff. She also has a passive. Now the passive ability is when it is applied anytime a character is on the track. Now their passive ability is usually some type of buff that's going to do something good for you. The passive, for her example, was whenever I deploy a card, deal 1 damage. So while she's out there, everybody else I deploy behind her gives her the opportunity to deal 1 damage to my opponent. And damage is going to come off the top of their library. So that's always a nice way. That's how you win, basically. All right, you got to do enough damage to somebody else. Now, if we'll notice here, the green symbol at the bottom, we talked about this before. All of the cards in the starter deck, what is recommended to use, have the green symbol. So even if you don't like CCGs and you don't want to buy, boosters or whatever, this is still a very a full game. And it also comes with additional cards that you can customize these decks as well. So there's a whole lot in this box, and this is just one way that it makes it very simple if you don't want to use anything else. Down here at the bottom left, we have her attack value, and here's her defense value. So she doesn't make a very good defender, so we want to get her out early so she can move up and out of the deployment zone. My opponent would then do something very similar. We'll just say they somehow put out a Dragon Lord. Next turn, I'm going to draw 2, untap everything. Everybody's going to move up, and then I can potentially play another card. Let's say I play her and I discard 2 cards. The Angelic Emissary costs 2, as I can see right here, and she has the passive of I can pay 2 to heal 3, which I could potentially get those 2 back. Because heal is one of the keywords that we're going to find here on our handy dandy card that has both the outline of a turn and all of my keywords that are on all of my cards. Pretty good stuff there, and that's really all you need to have reference in handy for what these keywords are going to do. And we're going to keep going back and forth, and eventually these guys will get across. Now, the interesting part comes when my scout, for example, gets to the end of the track, and it's time to advance further. Well, everybody else will move up. She now has an option of what I want her to do. First thing I can do is I could storm. When you storm, you are attacking your opponent. So I'm going to have to look at what the defender's defense value is. So, and remember, this is called the deployment zone for me, but it's also my defender's defender zone. So if, let's say, this summoner was here, he's got an armor of 1. So that's going to reduce her attack by 1. Now that doesn't mean that she's going for him, that just means that she's now only got attack of 1. So basically think of the defender zone, the deployment zone for your, for your opponent is the defender zone, and every point of armor is reducing the attack that's going to come off of there. Now he's only going to be in there for 1 turn because then he's going to move up, but that's part of the strategy of this game, because it seems like it's very easy to learn but difficult to master because there's a whole lot of different levels of complexity here. So she might only have 1 attack in that case, and then she could just attack the opponent taking 1 card off of his or her library there. Now another thing that she could do is she could attack one of the creatures that are in the track or maybe in their front line or in no man's land, and you would compare it to the defense value. Since she's only got 1 left, she could actually go ahead and kill this summoner, and any extra damage when you attack a creature is just forfeited. So that's Storm. Storm is kind of important because that's one of the ways you win the game. Another option that you can do is hold your ground. She could hold her ground, and then she would get to come either to my front line or no man's land, as long as those spots are empty. If there's somebody there, you can swap them out and they get taken away. But basically, the reason you would want to do that is if they had a really good passive. Hers is all right, but there's certainly better characters that have great passives. For example, gosh, where's one that I have? Maybe the Angel of Mercy, right? She's got a really nice passive. Your cards go back to your hand after storming or being killed. So if somebody's dead, they come straight back into my hand. That's really cool. So I might want to make her, go to the front line, for example, so she can... Now, characters that are in the front line can still potentially be attacked, but, look at this character. She's got a defense of 7. It's going to be really hard to kill her if I put her in my front line. So that's kind of how that works. And that's something that... so that's what holder ground is important, to get them to stay out there so that you can keep getting their bonus of their passive. Again, there's only 1 card type, but you can do so many different things with each card. That's one of the coolest parts of this game. The third option, and this one's early game important, is called support. Basically, I'll flip her over and I'll set her down in my area, and she's going to basically act as like an energy or a mana for me. Think of something like that. And the support cards can be used to exhaust them, to turn or otherwise tap them, and they're going to help pay the costs. So if I had the Stag Rider here, instead of having to discard 1 now, I can just pay a support. Or if I have something that costs 3, I can pay a support and then only discard 2. So basically, I have to lose less life now for every support I have. And if I'm able to get, over the course of the game, maybe I get 3 support in the first couple of turns, well, now I can start playing 3-cost cards for free, and I don't have to worry about filling up my discard pile with a bunch of cards that I'm discarding from my hand. And that's kind of the 3 different things that you're going to do with these characters as they go across. The other thing that I could do is I could just play an action. If they're in my hand, I still have to pay their cost, but I could play the action straight away. And you can do this at any time as well. Of course, it's gonna describe how it works. So if you're gonna move an enemy somewhere, but there's no enemies, yeah, obviously you wouldn't do that. But each card's gonna describe how it works, and that's the way actions work. So I could but when you place somebody for their action, they go straight into your discard pile. So you're only gonna get so many uses of them. So one of the things I really like about SiegeStorm is the art on these cards. They're very, very pretty. There's no borders, so you're able to get the whole card kind of filled up with the art, and I think that's really nice. It makes it a very attractive game to play, especially on some of these really, really pretty angelic cards. I'm liking the theme of light versus dark, angels versus demons, gods and monsters, that sort of thing. I definitely like it, and I like the tug of war feel that you get from the board. I can understand, though, that some people aren't going to like the fact that it's being developed in a collectible card game format, but I think that's kind of both a pro and a con, because some people love opening boosters, some people hate that format, but you're getting an awful lot in just the core set, so it doesn't even have to be played that way, because it comes with 2 fully ready-to-play decks. Plus, you're also getting a whole bunch of extra cards. You're getting a ton of extra cards. Look at all this. And these are just to basically almost 2. You're getting about 4 decks worth of cards in the core game, which is fantastic. There are plans for even more factions too, and I'm assuming that they will have different card backs because of the fact that the card backs themselves represent the faction that they belong to, so there can't be any mixing of factions, which could be something that maybe you might want to do if you wanted to sleeve your cards, but I don't think the game is balanced around that, so I wouldn't recommend sleeving them and mixing the factions between each other, because they also have different keywords, as you're going to see, because there's a separate light and dark keyword trait, and some of these they have very thematic keywords, like that white doesn't have steel, but black doesn't have like resurrection, raising allies and as much healing and keywords that basically kind of fit into that archetype or that genre. But yeah, these cards are really great. I definitely like the fact that it's a quick game too. You can play it in 30 minutes or less. So quick games are always nice. And you get so much in this box. So that's definitely one of the things I like most about it. But if you want to win this game here, only thing you need to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this video. It's as simple as that. Now this is separate from my other videos because of the fact that I normally run giveaways all the time, and my rules are generally be a subscriber and leave a comment on one of my videos. But this one, to win this particular giveaway, you have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this particular video, and then you're entered to win SiegeStorm, and I will ship this to you anywhere in the world. So it's as simple as that. Now this is going to run for about 3 weeks, so make sure you are subscribed and click the little notification bell, and you will get basically your alerts there whenever I put out a new video. I also have other contests running all the time. I give cool stuff, gift cards away, so you can win expansions of your choice, all kinds of fun stuff like that. But check out SiegeStorm. I think it's a very fun game. I think it's a lot of value for such a small box. You're just getting so much in there. You're getting great card art. You're getting very great themes, and there's so many collectible card games out there right now. And this one has a very different feel to it with the push and pull, the tower defense kind of mechanic. I think it really works for the game. It's a lot of fun, so check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Enter to win the giveaway, and make sure that you click that bell for alerts, because you don't want to miss when I announce the winner. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.